Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Steampunk Desperado channel. Today, we have the Battle of the Battle Animes. The video you're about to see concerns a battle between two popular works of Japanese fiction. Ironically, that's what both of them are about, the battle between good and evil. Both started out as popular manga series, and both were adapted into even more popular anime. Mrs. Desperado and I, anime diehard fans that we are, have watched both. The first you've almost certainly heard of, Demon Slayer, also called Kimetsu no Yaiba in Japanese. It's exactly about what you think it is, a man who slays demons. The second is a bit more obscure, but it's got a similar theme. The English name for it is Sorcery Battle, but nobody calls it that. It's generally known by its Japanese name, Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, Demon Slayer came out first, and there's a rule of thumb that the first version of something is the best, and the second is usually a poor imitation, but that's not necessarily the case. So, without further ado, let's examine the question, which is better, Kimetsu no Yaiba or Jujutsu Kaisen? Well, I'll start with a bit of clarification. Mrs. Desperado and I seldom read manga, so this battle or contest, if you will, is between the two anime and not their print predecessors. My second note concerns nomenclature. Demon Slayer is best known by its English name, so I'll call it that. But nobody calls the other one Sorcery Battle, as I said, so I'll just call it Jujutsu. Yes, is the same name as the martial art that's also called Jiu-Jitsu, and the concept is similar, except in this case, the fighting involves magic and the supernatural. Both of these stories are in the shonen category, which means it's aimed at boys, essentially. Yet both have acquired a worldwide following of all age groups, and they're a bit more mature than your typical kids anime shonen like One Piece or Bleach. A little bit more violent, a little bit more good versus evil, as I said. Most of you who are watching already know the basic plot of Demon Slayer, but for the benefit of the few who don't, here is the premise. It takes place in the Taisho era of Japan. That's like approximately 100 years ago. And it begins as teenager Tanjiro Kamado comes home to find a demon has murdered his entire family, except for his sister, Nezuko, who has been turned into a demon herself. I guess it works kind of like vampirism. As a demon, she can't talk, but she can more or less remember him, and he's able to subdue her because, she wants to attack him as well at first. He puts her into a box, and he carries her away on his back. His quest is to cure her, make her human again, and that requires him to search for the demon who did the killing. As part of his quest, he joins the Demon Slayer organization and trains in martial arts and has a lot of adventures, always taking his sister with him. As I said, this show is based on a manga. Its creator is Koyoharu Hotouge and ran from 2016 to 2020. In 2019, it became an adaptation, a smash hit from the studio Ufotable. And that's what the studio is actually called. That ran from 2019 to 2024. And this year, there's a movie called Infinity Castle, which is the first in a trilogy of studio theatrical releases, which will release this month in Japan and will be here in the USA in September. So the excitement continues. Mrs. Desperado and I both love Demon Slayer so much that we went back and watched the seasons before that we'd missed and continued on when the new ones came out. But we were also looking for something a little similar because there's only so much Demon Slayer you can watch. And when we saw a new show on our My Anime List website called Jujutsu Kaisen, we were intrigued, and so we checked it out. As I said, Jujutsu Kaisen means sorcery battle, but I've never heard anyone call it that. The hero of the story is Itadori Yuji, a high school student in present-day Japan. He's interested in the occult, and he trains in martial arts, but he's nothing special until the day he accidentally ingests a relic of the ancient evil sorcerer Sukuna. It would take too long to explain how he ends up doing this. He swallows the sorcerer's mummified finger. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting. And which was kept in a shrine on the grounds of the school. It was kind of to ward off any curses. That gives him magic powers, but Sukuna's spirit now also inhabits his body. It's in his head like a homunculus who talks to him and tries to influence him, maybe like a little devil on his shoulder, you know? This brings Itadori to the attention of the secretive Jujutsu Society and the sorcery organization, that is, and they bring him into their organization and transfer him to Tokyo Jujutsu Academy, where he meets the other members of his first year class. Like Tanjiro in Demon Slayer, he has his best friends, which are the ones he meets in his freshman class of this school. He learns that the world is secretly menaced by evil spirits created from cursed energy. And this is the emotional energy that comes from people's negative thoughts and anger and hatred and fear and things like that. And it manifests as creatures that are similar to those from Japanese mythology, kind of like yokai and so on. Some of them are straight up monsters. For short, they call these curses, which seems a little weird. I mean, it sounds contrived to me. It's like they're trying to have demons without actually calling them demons. Maybe it's just a translation issue and it sounds better in Japanese. I just don't know. We know very little about Itadori's family, except he's been raised by his elderly grandfather. On his deathbed, the old man tells Itadori that he must make his life mean something, which is a charge that the young man takes very seriously. This show also came from manga, of course, so it came about later than Demon Slayer. Its creator was Gege Akutami, and the series ran from 2018 to 2024. Like Demon Slayer, it was featured in Shonen Jump, so it's also a shonen. Its anime adaptation was done by the studio Mappa. It began in 2020 and ran through 2023, though there is supposedly a new season called Culling Game coming soon. Mrs. Desperado and I greatly enjoyed both series, but of course, we liked one better, which is why this battle came about. Again, as I said, the usual rule of thumb is that the first is better, but that's not always the case. So, having introduced you to the contestants, let the battle begin. What I love about Demon Slayer. It's a simple story concept. It's a small cast of characters, and it's a simple quest. Save Nezuko and destroy the demon who murdered their family. And the concept of fighting demons is a basic one that's probably familiar to just about all cultures in the world. The demon slayers are also normal humans who somehow manage to win against overwhelming odds. Some of these demons are very powerful, using martial arts techniques, which all involve controlled breathing. And it's very touching, Tanjiro's devotion to his sister. He is the epitome of Japanese devotion to one's family. He brings up the idea also, which is a little interesting and kind of a changed up concept, that all demons are not evil because his sister's one, so they can't all be evil. The characters are great, especially Nezuko with her bamboo muzzle that she has to wear to keep from biting people. And then there's also a character called Inosuke who wears the boar's head all the time, and he is so gung-ho all the time. And there's another character, another one of his companions called Zenitsu, the blonde kid who's kind of cowardly. I found him a little annoying at times, but it was okay. It's weird how he fights when he's asleep, because he's so cowardly, he has to be asleep to fight. And so there are clever plot twists as well, such as when we discover that the train they've been battling upon is actually a demon itself. The series was so popular that there was merch all over the place. For example, we have Tanjiro right here in his trademark checkered kimono, and here is Nezuko in her little box with her little bamboo muzzle. Very cute. And of course, we have T-shirts like this one. We have the Abbey Road theme with the four characters. Of course, we have Boarhead guy at the end, of course, and Nezuko's outside of her box. So we can kind of contrast this. I only have one piece of merch from Jujutsu Kaisen, which I'll show you later. So anyway, regarding Demon Slayer, there was just one thing that bugged me, and that was that Nezuko didn't even show up for a lot of the episodes. She was just asleep in the box. And although she does fight for the good guys and she's very powerful because she's a demon, a lot of times they don't bring her out at all until the very end of the episode when all is about to be lost. It's kind of like when Popeye the Sailor has to eat spinach at the last minute when Bluto's just beating the heck out of him when he could have done it a lot sooner. Finally, some of the humor in this show is pretty weird and silly, like the time when the three guys, that is Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, pose as geishas, and they keep saying how ugly they are, except for Inosuke, whose head is usually covered by a boar's head. He's a very pretty boy, so they actually think he makes a good-looking girl. But it got old. It was very silly. Now, for Jujutsu Kaisen. First, I'll show you the piece of merch I have here. This is Satoru Gojo, one of the characters, one of the good guys. That's the only one I have. And I'm going to tell you why Jujutsu Kaisen is better. Yes, sorry, Demon Slayer fans. And here is why. And Mrs. Desperado actually agrees with me. First of all, it's modern and it's just a bit more relatable for that reason. Because it happens in the modern day, and we kind of can relate to, subways and internet and so on, those kind of things, cell phones. It is faster paced, much faster paced than Demon Slayer. That is, we don't spend a whole season in one place, like battling on that train, for example. The action is kind of like a chess match. You know, the good guys do one thing, the curses do another, back and forth, and you like never know who's going to win. The Jujutsu sorcerers, unlike the Demon Slayer core, they do have supernatural powers, which I think makes it seem a little bit more plausible for your suspension of disbelief because, they're battling supernatural entities just like the Demon Slayers are, but they have a little bit more of an even playing field, if I may, These cursed spirits are very powerful. It is unpredictable. Whereas in Demon Slayer, you have such a small cadre of regular characters, you know that's probably only one kind of side character is going to be killed during one particular season. No, a lot of characters die unexpectedly. It's very unpredictable, and which is makes sense given the enemy that they're fighting. As I said, it's got a bigger cast of characters. There's a wider variety, including some more interesting villains. My favorite was Jogo, the volcano head guy. Yeah, he's actually got a hole on top of his head, and he can burn people up, which is really kind of chilling. Yeah, joke there. On the good guy side, we have a panda. Yes, a talking panda called Panda, of course. And my other favorite is the badass girl sorcerer, Kugasaki, one of Itadori's best friends. And she's not only kind of cute, but she's got attitude and she's got some interesting different powers that the other guys don't have. Now, the evil sorcerer Suguro Gito has a particularly interesting backstory, as he started out as a good guy, and so we learn more of that as the show goes on. Finally, Itadori has a secondary conflict with the evil wizard Sukuna, as I said, and who's trying to take him over all the time. Even as a ghost, Sukuna is very powerful, and Itadori doesn't dare use his help unless he absolutely has to, and then he has to make this deal. It's kind of like dealing with the devil. Now, the only thing I really kind of disliked about Jujutsu Kaisen is that too many of those life retrospective scenes happened right when we got a character who's about to die. And it really stops the action. I mean, it's kind of sad, and we don't want to see him go. For example, Nanami, he's the businessman guy. He's really cool. He's really cool. He's got cool glasses, and he wears this suit. He's very dapper, and he refuses to work overtime. But it's a little too much, was my thought. So in conclusion, the winner of this battle is Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, I really do think it's a better show. Though both are great, and we love them both. Please let me know what you think about that in the comments. And if you want to scold me for dissing your favorite, go right ahead. Please like and subscribe. Also, check out my works on Amazon. Links are in the description. And again, my new book, Hunter's Wager, It involves a guy who makes a very bad deal with a character who is almost like the devil. He's so cunning and malevolent. And it's very reminiscent of Sukuna and Itadori. So this is the Steampunk Desperado saying adios amigos from the Steampunk Desperado channel, where the past meets the future and the present is extraordinary.